Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This week's video is about fashion journalism and being a fashion journalist. So fashion journalists are media professionals who write/report on all things fashion and sometimes even more, leaning into the more lifestyle aspect of it. They get to attend all sorts of events and cover things like photo shoots, fashion shows. They even get to go to some award shows. They work with stylists, designers, producers, curators to gather information and produce content for their particular audience. Fashion journalism involves a variety of roles. You could be a photographer, a writer, an editor, or a reporter. As a fashion journalist, the most common place for them to work is magazines, newspapers, or blogs. So when it comes to what fashion journalists do, it depends on the particular role that you're in. So writers and reporters, they conduct a lot of research, interviewing people like designers, models, just gathering information and then compiling it into a written piece or an article, sometimes maybe even a different form of media. Then there are editors who are kind of the boss of everything. Like if you ever hear like, oh, that person's the editor of this magazine, they kind of run the whole show. They have duties like giving out tasks to writers and reporters, even plan out what content is to be published, overseeing production workflow within the staff and just making sure everything is going how it should, and also making sure that the work that the team is putting out is meeting the correct standards. And then there are photographers who work alongside both editors and writers. They help determine visual goals and they take photos and edit their own work, while also assisting in creating a visual layout that will align with the rest of the magazine or blog or, So being a fashion journalist takes a lot of time and commitment, especially because this field is seen as very competitive. Like it's very hard to make it as a writer or as a photographer. The first thing you would want to do to become a fashion journalist in any of those areas, get your bachelor's degree. Of course, it's not required, but having that foundation education always helps. This helps you develop your expertise and can make you stand out from other people as well. Getting a degree in fields like journalism, English, communications, photography, or anything else related to that field will really help you out. Moving on from getting your degree, having work experience or an internships like working at a fashion magazine or some other kind of publication. You can use skills that you previously learned in real life scenarios in this case. Practicing for when you start your big girl job. So like I said before, being a fashion journalism involves a bunch of different fields, and when you're up and coming and learning, it's best to choose one area to kind of specialize in. So for instance, if I wanted to be a fashion writer, but I still enjoy doing the other things, I would really hone in on my writing skills to make sure that I'm always putting my best forward. So I'd still be able to maybe dabble in the other things, but because writing is the main thing that I want to do, make sure that is like I'm always putting that first. Of course, building a portfolio, always a need to do. Last thing I have is networking within the journalism industry during and after getting your degree. While you're getting your degree, the friends you make, as you make it big, they also make it big, so you can just kind of help each other out. And just creating connections and establishing a professional reputation for yourself. A couple skills that you would need in being a fashion journalist. Good communication, being personable with people, just being able to understand and have meaningful conversations, especially if you're in an area of it where you need to be interviewing a lot, which is what a lot of writers and reporters do. Just being able to have the kind of conversation, asking the right questions, getting the information you need, but also just like being able to talk to people. Fashion expertise, understanding trends, being able to talk to people within the fashion industry, like models, designers, interpersonal communication skills, of course, and also researching skills, which is a big one. I think more so for writers and reporters, just because if you're going to interview someone or you're going to talk about a certain thing or an article, you need to do the research before you talk about that thing. No one's just going to take your word as law or anything. You need to be able to, back that up. So as a fashion lover and also movie lover, I feel legally obligated to talk about The Devil Wears Prada. The main character, Andy, is a writer and she gets a job working at a fashion magazine as an assistant. And she just learns how complicated the fashion world really is and starts considering things that she herself never considered before. And it's just that movie probably it was probably like a deciding factor in like, yeah, I'm doing this. Going into the fashion industry, I saw it and I was like, yeah, I can do this. I can do it. Another movie I want to bring up is How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. In that movie, Kate Hudson, her character Andy Anderson, also works at a fashion magazine, but she is a fashion writer and she has her own column called the How To column. Another movie I want to bring up is How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. In that movie, Kate Hudson's character Andy Anderson also works for the fashion magazine, and she has her own column called the How To column. And even though in the movie she wants to start writing about, the political and economic state of the world, which, why would you work at a fashion magazine and try to write about politics? But before that, she would write about other things like losing weight and decorating your apartment. And I think that leaning into the more lifestyle aspect of it can just broaden your reach as a fashion journalist. Like, for the losing weight article, that kind of goes back into fashion because, well, now that you're kind of new, you've kind of transformed yourself, now transform your style. I think that's a really interesting thing that journalists can do. They have this kind of certain power to influence people, whether we realize it or not. The things we read, the things we see, they do influence us and our choices, and I think that's something really interesting. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.